Today we're looking into my INFJ growth diary. I want to give you an insight of my personal INFJ growth story because I've been able to come out of a situation that was so bad for me over and over again and create this life that I now call my INFJ epic life. That's what I'm teaching in my bootcamp through 101 sessions, like all of that. And I want to give you more of an insight of what the changes were that I made happen so you can apply it to your life. It sometimes feels like it's a generic thing that would apply to everybody, but with time I've recognized that these things that have made me grow as an INFJ and live the life that I want right now are very specific to INFJs. And there are some tactics I want to share with you that I've used throughout my life to get from a place of being a child of immigrants, coming to Germany from like a communistic way, always being taught you can't have anything, we don't have enough money for that, people not understanding me. I was always weird. My entire life, particularly as a child, I didn't have the tools to make all of this happen. So I really didn't start out in the best way possible when it comes to the opportunities I was giving myself or were given to me through my circumstances. And I turned it all around. And unknowingly, I did a lot of it with the 4% rule. That's what I want to talk to you about. I was reading the book Atomic Habits by James Clear not too long ago, and I saw, this is actually the tactic I've been using all my life. And it's also something that applies to INFJs so amazingly because there's not just this one way that will make your life turn around and for you to actively see the results in your life and for you to know, I'm not imagining this. I'm not just sitting there and telling myself affirmations of I'm happy and I'm healthy and things are great, but you actually see things changing in your favor the way you wanted them to, and in a way that makes you feel not just fulfilled but ecstatic, and you just like live in abundance and things are happening. And this is not something I only have taught myself, but it's also something that is teachable. We talk about this, although we haven't really called it the 4% rule, in all of my materials and all of my resources. So if you haven't done this so far, download the free poster on the 5 pillars to an INFJ epic life, because the tactic there is actually the 4% rule. It applies to all the 5 pillars. And once you've learned today how the 4% rule works and why it's so immensely great for INFJs, you can also use it for the 5 pillars when you work on them by yourself. And if you say, okay, I'm now ready for the next step, you know what I always say, go get coaching. Let's dive deep into what's going on in your life today. What is something you honestly want? Let's uncover that and let's take steps that are actually working. Things that will make a difference in your life and not just something that you say, yeah, I've been contemplating and I do feel different. No, things that nobody can deny, especially not you. And another way to do this is, of course, to join the INFJ Epic Life Bootcamp waiting list right now because it is limited seating. We're only opening 4 times a year, so every 3 months. The next one is in October. So make sure you're aware of what's going on. Be on top of it when things are going out. You want to be there. It's an amazing opportunity because not only are we working in like the 6 weeks together how to make those shifts in those 4%, but once you're in the group, you're in the group, meaning you have constant contact to other INFJs who are on your journey, meaning the next time we do bootcamp, you automatically are enrolled. The 4% rule isn't something that you do once. It's a way of living. And if you know, for example, you're in the bootcamp and you have access to this over and over again, that's why so many INFJs keep coming back and we reach the next level of personal growth, not just in a, as I say, I feel better kind of way, but I actually do have more money. I actually started my own business. My relationships transformed forever. Before I started this journey, I personally was single for like 10 years. And before that, I had a long distance relationship where things definitely weren't going anywhere. And like everything has changed. Now I'm married, I have a daughter, I have my own business, I love what I do. And none of this wouldn't have been able if I didn't apply the 4% rule. So the 4% rule is about making progress. You as a person, so not just as an INFJ, this applies to absolutely everybody, need a certain amount of motivation in order to make something happen in your life. If you have, let's say, somebody that you want to play against, like James Clear, for example, uses the example of tennis. If you play tennis with a 4-year-old, you're going to lose motivation rather quickly because it's going to get boring. You will win every every single time. If you play against Serena Williams or Roger Federer, you're going to lose right away, and of course, you're going to get bored from that as well. Studies have shown that for you to not only want something, but actually make it happen, you need to do something which requires you to grow 4%. So it has to be a little bit over what you're currently able to do. You lose sometimes, you win sometimes. It's actually like playing tennis with somebody who's 4% better than you continuously. And this works so well for the INFJ because we can find this sweet spot intuitively. If we listen to ourselves and we know that this is how it works and we're willing to apply it to our own life, you very quickly will find this sweet spot. You will recognize really quickly that you're doing something that is maybe 10% too much, so you won't be able to do it for too long, or you're doing something that is only 2%, like, more than you could do, or it doesn't force you to grow even a little bit. In both of those cases, nothing is going to change. Like the first thing that happened in my life where I saw this happening is when I was an immigrant child, and then I started elementary school and I was the only kid who couldn't swim. And people said, okay, it can't be that she can't swim. We here in Germany, that's the thing you have to do. And so they sent me with the 3-year-olds. And that's when my motivation started, and I just got ambitious. And I taught myself 2 things. And these are the things that are so important for us INFJs, which are that it doesn't matter how slow you are. I'm an INFJ. I'm never going to be the fastest one. My SE is low. It's there. It gets me excited, but I'm not naive enough to think that I can push myself like an ESTP could. Once I understood this, I wasn't pretending that I was somebody else. I wasn't putting myself down for it. So I wasn't expecting myself to make some huge leaps overnight because they didn't work. You've known this. How often in your life have you said, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to work out, I'm going to apply for better jobs? Did you actually do it? Most of the time, no, because it's not just about knowing what to do. Every single one of us, for example, has tried this concept of eating healthier. We know what to do. Eat healthy, work out, you're going to be in a great shape. Does that mean that that's what we do? No, because it's not about that. It's not about knowing steps. It's about becoming a person who just sees it part of their identity to eat healthy, to work out, to make things happen. And we as INFJs can become this so easily if we're willing to take it slow, if we're willing to apply the 4% rule and know that it doesn't matter that, for example, if I go to bed at 2 and now I want to go to bed at 10, I'm not going to try to go to bed at 10. I'm going to go to bed at 1:30 because it's way more important to become a person who keeps the promises she makes to herself, and through that, I learn how I can change my identity around it. Before I know it, I am a person who goes to bed at 1:30. And all my life, I've done this unconsciously. So in my swimming story, what happened? I always said, okay, I'm with the little kids. Of course, everybody's going to judge me. It's not going to be perfect. But all I'm doing is to improve myself a little bit. It's never about how much I achieve. It's about getting a little bit better of myself. And that process is incredibly exciting for us INFJs. We have to figure out in what aspects we want to do it and to be willing to do it in small steps. Long and behold, of course, I was able to move past everybody in my classes and all the kids that were so much more ahead of me. And, I got really, really good at swimming. And that continued to, college. And then after college, I was working in consulting and banking in Europe. I was a frequent traveler. I had a diamond status at Hilton Hotel. So it all turned into that direction until I said, okay, I wasn't really in the path that I wanted to take. I'm going to switch it up and use, the things that we talk about in the bootcamp, the 5 pillars. As I said, download the poster so you have an idea what it's all about. And that's when things really started happening quickly. That's the first time I found a partner who actually fits with my lifestyle. That's when I started my vocation. That's when I saw myself being the person I wanted to be. My wealth management became much better. I fixed so many of my relationships, for example, with my father, and my physical energy just skyrocketed. And it all worked because of that 4% rule. You always improve a little bit. You don't want to go and compete to the person who's doing so much all the time. That's not who you are. You don't need to do all the things. You need to do the right things. You're an INFJ. You're always going to be limited when it comes to how much physical energy you have. We talk about it in bootcamp, how to increase your physical energy to make things happen, because every single time you bring yourself out of your comfort zone and you stop playing by the game that is maybe beneficial for others or for society, and you start creating something that is more in alignment with who you are, it will take energy. But in order to have long-lasting results, the 4% is going to get you there, because we're not aiming for the quick win. We're not aiming to have like this big change in our life tomorrow. We're aiming to having that big change in our lives within the next 5 years. And the best thing about it is you feel that it's happening the first day you start. Once you lean into becoming the person you want to be, you already feel amazing. You already know, I don't want to change that. That's the kind of person I want to be. That's what makes me feel great as an INFJ. And for some types, this can be incredibly difficult to get to a place where you feel comfortable with those small improvements. That's not the case for INFJs. If we embrace this, we master this like no other. We actually thrive in this state because we know it's going to happen. We see it. We are on the trajectory of it. We know if I continue to taking these steps, my life is getting closer and closer to the vision that I have. I see that my actions and the things I'm in control of are actually making a reality happen that I want. I become more and more aware of what is reality and what is just my thoughts, what is my imagination. Very often, as INFJs, when we start this transformational process, it's hard to distinguish between, oh, that's just imagination and that's actually real life. But once you start taking those steps, it anchors you into your reality. It shows you the progress, and you also are aware of what is really going on. It's an incredible opportunity. So start doing it today. Download the poster. Look, what are the 5 pillars? What kind of goals do I want to set in each one of them? This is tailored to INFJs. All the way. This works not only for me, it has worked for so many INFJs I've worked with. It's something that will change your life if you apply it. So define some goals and make small but incremental improvements. Be consistent with them and aim to become the person who is doing certain things, not to have that result. It's not about being able to go to bed at 10 o'clock so you have more sleep, so you have more energy to work on your business. Yeah, that's a side product. But the first point is to become a person who keeps the promises he or she makes to him or herself. That's the point. And then to learn how, with small incremental changes, improvements, from going to bed at 2 o'clock to becoming somebody for whom it's completely normal to go to bed at 1:30, how that thing will actually change your life. It's about learning how to make that shift, how to change your identity, because then you're unbeatable. Then you can apply this to every single aspect in your life. That's what we teach, that's what we work with, that's what my life purpose is all about, and help you to figure this out, make it happen in your life. I want to see you win. I want you to succeed, and to succeed on your terms. That's my biggest joy. Think about it. You, let's say as an example, go to bed at 2 o'clock and you always want to go to bed earlier. For you, it's no problem to go to bed at 2 o'clock. You never go to bed at 4, maybe once a week, but that's it. Most of the time, 2 is your normal. 2 is your benchmark. So if 2 can be your benchmark, then your identity is based on being a person who goes to bed at 2 o'clock. And now we're going to change it so you feel like 1:30 is your new normal. Once you make that shift, everything is possible. You are not just changing habits, you're changing your identity. It's of course always helpful to have accountability when you do this. So get a friend, even better, go get mentorship, go get coaching, for example, from me, or get it through our community, the INFJ Epic Life Bootcamp, because there you not only have the community that is working towards the same goal, and also in between bootcamps, you can encourage each other, but you have my support in that as well. As I said, it's not the only way to do it, but it's definitely a way that works, and you don't have to do everything at once. And in the spirit of the 4% rule, you don't have to be perfect at this. Even at like boot camp, I have people who say, oh, I have to be able to do all of that, or I'm just a failure. I don't feel good about it. That's not what it's about. Think about the 4% rule. If you have such hesitation, if you're self-sabotaging and you say, yeah, I join courses like that and then I don't show up, okay, that's your current state. So let's go for the next step. What will be an improvement of 4%? Maybe it would be to write it in your calendar that something is going on that day, that we have a call, that we talk live on Saturday. That's maybe something to put up there. And then maybe you don't show up, maybe you don't encourage yourself, but next time you will. Like, there are people who are even at that state, and that's totally okay. You put yourself in a position where you allow yourself to make mistakes, but you continuously get back on the horse. You do that because the alternative is just not what you want. It's not helping you creating a trajectory of who you want to become as an INFJ. You deserve that INFJ epic life. Go for it. We're here for you. It's not something that only works for others. Trust me on this. I've seen this so many times, and people have told me, no, it works for everybody else. It doesn't work for me. And then everything changed, and they saw, yes, actually my life did change. And it was so much easier than I thought, and I didn't even know that things could be that easy. Remember to sign up for the waiting list. The link is in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then watch the video on the exceptional INFJ learning curve.